So I'll just introduce myself. Of course, my name is Michael Davis. That's my older brother Sam. Is the one that's doing the teaching for you guys. But he called me up because he wanted me to give you guys my some input regarding the Department of Corrections and the prison system. And like he said, I started there when I was 23 years old. I worked till I was 50 years old, and I was able to retire at 90% of my pay. Let me just backtrack a little bit. So me and my brother, we decided while we were playing football at Contra Costa that we were going to major in criminal justice. He was the first one to do it, and I kind of followed in his footsteps. I knew I wanted to be into law enforcement somewhere, not sure exactly where. I wanted to either do California Highway Patrol, police, sheriffs, and my last choice, believe it or not, was inside the prison. However, once I came back from the University of Cincinnati and started putting in applications, the first one to call was the last one I wanted to go to, which was Department of Corrections. And the reason I chose them at the time, because it was a 6-week academy. And after 6 weeks, I was able to go inside and work. Whereas CHP, SACPD, all of them had like a 3-month academy, and I just wasn't feeling that at all. So the first prison I started off at was Soledad State Prison. That's located in Soledad, California, near Monterey. I worked there for 3 years. I transferred to another institution called Centinela. I'm just going to go through this real fast. I worked there for about 3 years. Then I went to the academy to teach as a sergeant. I taught at the academy for 3 years, and then I went to Dual Vocational Institution, DVI, which is right outside of Stockton. And I worked there for 3 years, and then I went to the buses. You guys probably see them around, them green buses. I worked on the buses for 10 years. And then I went back to the academy for 2, and then I promoted to lieutenant at San Quentin. And I worked at San Quentin for 3 years, and then I promoted one more time to a counselor, and I retired from San Quentin. Now, why did I get into corrections? You know, like I said before, you know, it was one of the things we always wanted to do. But I'll tell you this, at 23 years old, I got thrown in there with a bunch of guys, because I worked at a male prison, that I didn't have a clue what kind of human beings we had. You know, we had the worst of the worst. We had some guys that you can go out and party with. It was pretty cool. And we had some guys that were just straight killers. Any chance that they got, they would try to take advantage of that and either assault staff or assault other inmates. That was just their makeup. They, even though they were in prison, they did not care. They was going to continue doing the same things that landed them in prison. So at 23 years old, I'm trying to find the ropes, trying to find out how I can fit into this prison with all this violence happening around me. And I got taken under a guy's wing that had been there for about 2 years. And he began to show me the ropes on how to actually supervise these guys. Because at 23 years old, a correctional officer is just that. He is a supervisor. So what he does is he supervises the lockup of the inmates. He supervises inmates going to school because they have to get a high school diploma. We supervise vocation because some of them have to get trades and trade, you know what I mean, like lawn care or whatever kind of trade they're into, welding, some of the things like that. And at the same time, try to stay safe, because keep in mind that you still had guys that will assault staff, that will assault anybody, and you had to keep your eyes, or keep your head, should I say, on a swivel. So you had to make sure, and I promised myself, I said, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm coming home. No matter how I get there, I'm coming home at the end of the day. And so the first year was kind of rough because you have to learn how to get along with people. You have to learn that those guys are manipulators and they try to manipulate you every chance they get. And then you had to learn how to talk, like I said, communicate. And as I learned how to communicate, my job became a lot easier. I didn't have to worry about guys trying to assault me, even though I knew there's a possibility that they would try it. You know what I mean? So I never let my guards down. So once I got done with corrections, my last job, I want to skip to that part. The last job I had was as a counselor. My job was to keep San Quentin out of court. And how I did that was inmates have a right to file different lawsuits if it affects their well-being. In other words, if it affects the way they live, and say, for example, we wasn't feeding them or we wasn't doing things that we needed to do, they have a right to write an appeal. Well, I was the appeals coordinator, so I would have to go out and I would have to interview everyone that came into my office, and I would basically try to find out what their problem was and whether or not we could resolve it. And if we couldn't resolve it, I would deny it, meaning that I would give them a letter, a warden would sign it, and I would deny their grievance. And then that would give them the ability to go out to court, and then it'd be based on what the judge says, yay or nay, that the inmates either would get what he wanted or he wouldn't get it. So that's my job in a nutshell. It was a pretty tough job. I mean, working in the prison system is not an easy job. Working in law enforcement, period, is not an easy job, and it's not for everybody. You know, if you guys are looking into getting into a job like this, you have to understand that you're not dealing with the best of the best. You know what I mean? You are dealing with people who they see you as either a person that they can manipulate and get you to bring stuff in for them, and if you won't do that, then they have no use for you, and they don't understand having somebody telling them what to do. They don't like it at all. They don't like authority whatsoever. So that's the job in a nutshell.